It's the end of the week, so it's time to check the report. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into the latest edition of the Check the Report podcast here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Here today, we have the blessing and opportunity to talk to one of the board members of the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame, Matt Friedman, here today to kind of talk about the event. It's going to take place this Saturday from the soundboard, and it's going to be a great event. We're going to look at the inductees, kind of how things shake out in regards to electing members of the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame and what could take place potentially this Saturday. If you do indeed go out there, I've been out there several times. It's an event that I always truly enjoy. It's kind of an event to really honor and embrace those that have made an impact in Michigan sports, not only athletes, journalists, and from all walks of life. I've always had a great fondness for covering the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. So I'm definitely looking forward to my conversation with Matt. How's everything going?
Great, John. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about this as a lifelong sports fan who spent most of my life here in Michigan. Being a part of this organization is a great privilege, and being able to bring it to life every year and allow fans to see up close some of their heroes and the great performers of all time, it's a thrill. I can't wait to be down there and get a chance to do this again in person, how it deserves to be.
Yeah, absolutely. The pandemic threw a wrench into some things. Yeah, talk about that. How did the pandemic kind of make things more challenging for the Sports Hall of Fame in terms of the presentations and the induction ceremonies?
What we decided to do in 2020 was nominate a class, name a class. The great people at Bally Sports Detroit put us in position to make that announcement in a TV special. So the fans were at least engaged at the end of 2020 in that they could watch it on TV and experience that way. And rather than having a 2021 class, we inducted the class of 2020 last fall, in the fall of 2021, in person with a great ceremony down there at the Motor City Soundboard. So this is really the first time since 2019 where we've been able to name a class and induct a class in the same year in front of the fans. And I think that's one of the reasons why everybody's pretty fired up about this one.
Yeah, absolutely. 8 new faces, if I'm correct, being inducted this year. Amongst the inductees include Antonio Gates, Chris Webber, Jenny Ritter, Merrill Davis, Charlie White, John Beeline, Mickey Redmond, and Kathy Beauregard, I think, are the names that round out this year's inductee list. I really find every year the class to be very fascinating in regards to, obviously, like you said, being a longtime sports fan. So many great personalities, and especially with the likes of Mickey Redmond, Antonio Gates, Chris Webber, a lot of good stories to be told.
There are. And then there are 2 members of the class who would have been inducted last year, but they couldn't make it. They're being inducted this year. One of those is Shane Battier from Detroit Country Day, of course, went on to star at Duke and in the NBA, champion at, I think, every level. But Shane Battier will be with us this weekend. And then Chauncey Billups, unfortunately, had to go 0 for 2. He is the head coach now of the Portland Trail Blazers. Fall is a terrible time of the year for an NBA coach to do anything other than get ready for the season. So we'll be inducting Chauncey, Mr. Big Shot, through video, which is really the only way possible. But he's been very supportive and is very honored and flattered to be a part of this. Pistons champion during his time in Michigan.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of greats from all walks of life, different sports, and journalists as well, with Mickey Redmond also being a broadcaster. So I'm interested now, how do the inductees get to become a member of the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame? Take me through that process.
Yeah, we have an election committee that is co-chaired this year and will be again next year by Bruce Motti. Bruce was the longtime sports information director for athletics at the University of Michigan, and Tony Paul, who's an active sports writer for the Detroit News. And they've assembled a group of experts, journalists, astute fans across the state who can make sure that a diverse crop of contenders is being evaluated, professionals, amateurs, contributors, media, coaches from around the state. So it's not just the Detroit area. And they have their recommendation. The fans also have input in this. A certain percentage of the election process goes to the fans. And if any of you, your audience, John, if you're interested in being a part of the fan nomination, keep an eye on social media. Keep an eye on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram later this fall, and there will be information on how fans can suggest potential nominees. All that is taken into consideration, and this election committee presents a slate to the board, and it's up to us on the board to approve their recommendations. So we have a lot of thoughtful, knowledgeable people involved with this, but also we give the people who know and love Michigan sports a chance to weigh in as well. And I can't imagine a more fair way of doing this.
I always get my updates and all the information, up-to-date information from Twitter at the Twitter page at MSHOF or the website mshof.org. That's where you can get all the updates, find out what's happening, how the events are taking place, how the inductees are feeling and reacting to being bestowed a great honor. So what takes place at Soundboard? I think my couple events that I've covered have been really great. There's been an opportunity to meet and greet those that have been inducted. There's been raffles. There's been opportunity for auctions. There's been a great opportunity to just sit and enjoy an evening with fellow sports fans.
Yeah, what we have left is a $25 ticket. It's cheaper than going to a ball game, depending on where you like to sit at the ball game. And we still have some of those left. That'll give you a chance to sit upstairs in the Soundboard. The Soundboard is a really intimate venue. It's not like sitting in the upper deck of a big stadium. It's designed to be a concert venue, and the seats are close to the stage. And for $25, you can experience the induction ceremony up close. And our induction ceremony is really different than what you might see in the National Baseball Hall of Fame or the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which is a lot of speeches. It's a very interactive type of format. Brad Galley from Channel 7 will be there, among other sportscasters, to basically facilitate a conversation among these inductees. And you see how similar a lot of their experiences are, even if they come from different sports or different eras. So there's a really interesting and engaging program, and you can be there for just $25 if you go on to Michigan Sport. I'm sorry, let me say that again from the beginning. Michigan Sports HOF.org. So it's Michigan Sports HOF, like Hall of Fame.org. And for $25, you can be there on Saturday night and experience it for yourself. It's really a lot of fun and very entertaining. We're sold out of the higher level tickets, which, as you mentioned, and keep it in mind for future years, those of you in the audience, you have a chance at that time to do some meeting and greeting with the Hall of Famers, as well as participate in silent auction of some great memorabilia and have some good kind of ballpark type food before going into the ceremony. So ceremony gets underway at 7:00 on Saturday night downtown.
Yeah, excellent opportunity. Just $25. You get to have an opportunity to go down memory lane and have the opportunity to kind of relive. And I think Hall of Fames are great because it kind of is a culmination of the work that these athletes and journalists put in, and you really get an opportunity to reflect a little bit and to really share those memories, great stories. And I always enjoyed the conversation that the MCs have with the inductees in a roundtable format, and you get an opportunity to kind of maybe relive a story or two that you remember. Can you imagine sitting and sitting down with Mickey Redmond as he recalls some of the great feuds that the Red Wings had in the past, some of the great things that he's observed, the struggles of the Red Wings up until the time that they then were able to move through the 90s and then start to begin their championship quest, the 4 Stanley Cups. Great opportunities to get inside knowledge, and I think I found them each and every event I've attended. I found to be definitely worthwhile in terms of just absorbing the history of Michigan sports. Now, you said yourself you've been a lifelong supporter of Michigan sports. Take me through a little bit your fandom. Which teams caught your attention, and what are some of your earliest sports memories here locally in Metro Detroit?
The Tigers came first. I remember going to my first Tigers game in first grade, and I got hooked. And I can tell you that having a team win a World Series when you're in middle school is about the best way to get you hooked for life. And that happened with me and the Tigers in 1984. But certainly a Red Wings fan, Pistons fan. The Bad Boys were from my high school days. But even before that, we could see that budding with Isaiah Thomas and Kelly Tripucka and John Long and others. And I left Michigan to go to college, and I left for a few years after college and took this with me the whole time. U of M football Same thing. I've been back here for 26 years and have been a mini season ticket holder for the Tigers and a regular attendee of the games. And I just love it. And all of us who are on the board are professionals, some of us inside of sports, some of us outside of sports, but we all have this lifelong affinity for sports in this state and for the state itself. That's one of the things I think is interesting about this event, John, is you hear these athletes talk about what Michigan means to them. So I'm expecting to hear, Shane Battier, born and raised here, but then left to have a career. But Michigan still means something to him. Merrill Davis and Charlie White on the global stage at the Olympics, but they're still from Michigan first. And then you look at somebody like John Beilein, born and raised in New York, came to Michigan at the tail end of his career, yet still holds this great affinity and this great love for Michigan. So it's really interesting to hear that as part of the program every year about the special place that Michigan holds for them, no matter where their stardom came from.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the rich history of sports here in town, everybody that's talked about it, I mean, look, we all know that this Sunday for a football team that's coming off of 3 wins has now garnered such hype, such emotion and excitement. The Detroit Lions sold out their first game against the Philadelphia Eagles and the standing room tickets. It's going to be a packed house. And now the Tigers are in a rebuild and looking forward to their next GM hire to kind of kick things off after a rebuild that did not exactly go right. So even though whatever the plight, honestly, Matt, you know this, whatever the plight of the sports teams are here in town, the passion of the fan base makes it fun to be able to interact, do broadcast, do podcast, go out and really interact. And I think that's what's been a great opportunity with a lot of the local fan base and a lot of the local athletes is the accessibility. You always see them out in the community. You have an opportunity to, at times during events, to really have good conversations. And I think that's what makes Midwest and covering sports in the Midwest a great thing, is that the passion of the fan base just fuels everything. And one of the events that's going to culminate in the fall, and I look forward to it every single year, it's the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. Follow them on Twitter at MSHOF. Get all the information you need, $25. You can be there at the soundboard and really take in a fun night, really an opportunity to relive history with a really great inductee class. And now we can get things back and rolling in the future, and we can continue to honor those that have made a long-lasting legacy here in town. Matt, I appreciate it. One of the board of directors of the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame gave us a few minutes to recap what's going to take place this weekend. I look forward to future conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Thanks to your audience for all the support, too.
Always enjoy an opportunity to talk to those that are doing great things. And I've always enjoyed the relationship that Detroit Sports Podcast has had with the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame in terms of going out there. I've always enjoyed, to be honest, I always go there with my wallet just a little bit lighter because I've partaken in the silent auction there and some of the events that have taken place at the soundboard. And I like that facility. I like going down to the Motor City Casino, the soundboard. It's an intimate feel. You can get down there anywhere really you sit. You will have an opportunity to enjoy the event. So thanks to Matt Friedman, one of the board of directors of the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. And if you definitely enjoy sports history in Michigan, it's an event you have to see, at least partake in and take in once. So I enjoyed the opportunity there for a little bit of inside knowledge about what's going to happen this Saturday. Now to turn our attention here, one last segment here ahead of some important things going on this weekend. I have a couple thoughts about what's going to take place this Saturday at Michigan. And with a couple more days of reflection, I think it's great that when a podcast drops and you give your opinion on either J.J. McCarthy and Cade McNamara, the quarterback situation, everything that's been going on at Michigan, you get a chance to kind of absorb what people are saying, and you kind of absorb how the tide is turning. And I really am fascinated by what's going on, the dynamic at what's going on at Michigan. It's really fascinating because there are so many layers to peel back, and you see the support camps kind of forming. You have those that are just strictly pro-Michigan that support everything, each and everything that's decided by Jim Harbaugh is acceptable because they've made him, the end-all, be-all, the figure that brought Michigan to a Big Ten title for the first time in several years. So you have that camp. And then you have the camp that says, hey, Cade McNamara did and was able to accomplish a lot of goals and a lot of success at the highest levels for Michigan, levels that they haven't reached. Now, have they gotten to the elite status of college football, look, that's rarefied air. The Alabamas, Clemsons, LSUs, the opportunity to win a college football national title, that's rarefied air. So I know there's this subsection of Michigan supporters that are rabid, that are just like, if you're not on that path, then you're going nowhere. But I don't find that to be the overriding sense of the fan base at Michigan. I think that many are very satisfied in the direction, obviously not happy at times that the losses pile up to Ohio State and Michigan State, but generally speaking, Jim Harbaugh has taken them where they needed to go. And now this year presents an opportunity for a lot of success. To what degree, it's just really hard to tell because the schedule has been set up in a way that it's going to be really hard to fully, truly evaluate what Michigan is all about because of the let's just say, the ease in which the opponents, they're not lighting up. The Michigan opponents are not really going to be ranked that high at the end of the season. But now you have this dynamic where you've kind of started to have these camps form between those that support Cade McNamara and those that support J.J. McCarthy, the young upstart that has just chock full of potential that many people gravitate towards. And you get a sense that, many supporters are, it's kind of like one of those deals when you just have something that you really want to pay to see. And it's really that great age-old dynamic of the tried and true versus the unknown and the flair. Cade McNamara, you kind of know. You kind of feel like you see his ceiling. You know that he's a consistent quarterback, can make the throws when needed, but you need to be kind of safe and conservative with, build around in regards to an offensive line, kind of the Alex Smith of the Michigan program. But now comes in this young upstart, kind of like a Colin Kaepernick, to make a comparison here to a team that Jim Harbaugh was affiliated with. You got this young athlete that can also make plays, but also has a little bit of flair, a little bit of entertainment value, a little bit of that, I could drop $50 to $100 to go pay a ticket and go down to Ann Arbor and sit in the nosebleeds to potentially watch this exciting athlete that can make the throws, that can handle the business, that can be exciting as well. So now you have this camp that has formed, and many people are excited. And in the opener, Cade McNamara did not do himself any favors by struggling against a team that the Michigan program should have dominated from the get-go. So Cade McNamara struggles, in comes J.J. McCarthy, and instantly you feel the buzz. You hear the online reaction. Oh, here's J.J. It's automatic. I mean, literally the first couple incompletions that Cade McNamara had, the tweets were rolling, and it was shocking the quickness in which Michigan was willing to move on. And I understand. I think that's a valid point. You see the potential, and sports fans at times are quick to move forward to an athlete or a player that they feel is better, that can take them to a higher level. And I think at this point in time, the assessment is J.J. McCarthy is better than, or has a higher end ceiling than Cade McNamara. So now it's Hawaii, which is a perfect debut spot for J.J. McCarthy to start. I mean, he can even take a couple series to kind of get his feet wet and get comfortable. It doesn't have to light up the scoreboard just right away, because most people believe that it's going to be a 30-point or more blowout in Ann Arbor. So it's going to be something where not only does J.J. McCarthy have to succeed, I think that there may be some style points that he may need to kind of throw in there too. Not only just be proficient like Cade McNamara, but throw passes over 30 yards, have a lot of deep completions, have a lot of deep touchdowns, have a lot of pizzazz where you maybe force a defender to miss a tackle, little razzle-dazzle, kind of like Josh Allen. What a perfect debut for the Buffalo Bills on Thursday. You see everybody's watching, and boy, I mean, when you see a quarterback stiff arm a defender, you just go, wow, he has all the tools and pizzazz. Josh Allen has it. Now, does J.J. McCarthy have it? That is the question. Many people believe, yes, that J.J. McCarthy should be given the keys and the reins to the Michigan football program. And I just have a hard time. I'm a little bit more of the safe variety, meaning that I saw Cade McNamara do these things. I have a little bit of a sense of loyalty of being able to play the guy that got me success. But at the same time, at the highest levels, you're paid to make those tough decisions. You're paid, when you're Jim Harbaugh, the millions of dollars, to say, hey, if there's two athletes that are close, who's the better one? And I think that this game might prove to have some level of input into that analysis. But I can't, when you look at two teams like Colorado State and Hawaii, you can't really see and foreshadow that Jim Harbaugh is going to use that heavily to determine who starts game 3. So I am fascinated now. If we could fast forward from this Friday all the way till next Tuesday, Wednesday, when you get a chance after Jim Harbaugh's spoken, after the dust is settled, maybe after some more Instagram posts are made, some maybe a little bit more passive-aggressive comments are made, maybe there'll be an opportunity for some revision of what's going on. Maybe J.J. McCarthy struggles, and maybe that cements that, maybe we shouldn't have jumping off the bandwagon of Cade McNamara so fast. But I expect a blowout. I expect that there's going to be a lot of scoring, a lot of great plays, even on defense too. I think Michigan's defense has shown that they're going to be attacking the football and not willing to just sit back and be bend, don't break. They're going to make some things happen, and especially against teams that you know you're better than. You got to have this. You got to be able to force the issue. But I'm wondering out there, message us at Detroit Podcast. Let us know how you think. I got a reaction from the Doc and Jock podcast saying that, we were just totally biased and not really looking at the fact that Cade struggled in certain aspects, and that's why J.J. McCarthy has this role. Let us know if we're totally wrong, if our opinions are wrong, if you're in the pro-Cade camp. Let us know what you're feeling, knowing that a young upstart is going to take his place potentially. It's real close. Remember, guys, that the battle is razor thin. There are 2 quarterbacks that can play and win this season with Michigan, with that schedule. So I'm curious to see, and I'm definitely curious to see as well, after the fallout takes place this weekend, what shakes out. How does Cade McNamara handle it? Because by all accounts, his comments last week started to indicate somebody that obviously is not happy with how things went. And of course, I would have naturally assumed that when J.J. McCarthy gets increased opportunities and you've done nothing, literally nothing wrong to potentially have somebody else start over you, you're going to be unhappy. But to release that publicly when you're at Michigan, there's a little bit more decorum that's expected, kind of like a little mini test as to how a professional should act. Now, I know, of course, these are not professionals, and there's going to be times where they're in the heat of the moment after the game, and they're going to say some things. And that's why live press conferences are great, especially following a football game, and somebody asks the likes of a Cade McNamara, well, how do you feel about how things were handled this spring? After you had a decent spring, how do you make sense of the fact that now you're battling for your job? But these athletes should always know, every minute of every day in life, in any position, any walk of life, you're in a constant battle. You got to wake up every day knowing that, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. If you're staying still, you're getting worse. That every day there's somebody hungry. There's somebody out there that's just using every bit of motivation possible to try and reach their goals. Maybe JJ's just pissed off that, hey, why wasn't I named the starter right away? Why am I not given the reins? And maybe that's just going to be enough to fuel him. How does the likes of a Cade McNamara respond to that? Does he use that now as motivation the next time he steps out onto the football field? That's what makes it fascinating, is you got 2 guys who are now, look, I think it was great that they both came out and kind of said, look, we're friends. Like, why is it that we're being kind of pitted against each other? And why is it that it's kind of coming out this way? Well, unfortunately, at the highest levels of college football, the quarterback at Michigan is a job that people are going to want to explore and want to know who's going to be at the reins. So when 2 people are applying for a job of one, it's going to be heavily looked at. And it's going to be written about. It's going to be talked about, tweeted about. And I think both can do a better job of maybe just taking the high road and more of the way in which you'd say more of the professional approach, by just kind of giving the platitudes, speaking in code, and just speaking in a way that's just professional, not revealing too much per se. When you let it loose, you start letting the feeling, you make a one-day story, a weekend story, and this is our second podcast, third maybe, on the network talking about Cade McNamara and J.J. McCarthy, and that's just this week. That's because of the magnitude of the decision that's going to be made. It could have this decision by Jim Harbaugh could have easy for me to say, reverberating effects for many seasons to come. And I'm curious to see how it shakes out. My mind, how I see it, right now, J.J. McCarthy just has the higher upside, and you got to tap into that. For Michigan, you've won the Big Ten. You've defeated Ohio State. You've had success in the past against Michigan State. You've beaten them relatively in the near past. So, yeah, the last couple of years didn't go your way, but you got to tap into the potential of, okay, if we can steadily build with a cupcake soft-ass schedule, can we potentially find our way undefeated going into the college football playoffs, and you got to take advantage of that. And if J.J. McCarthy on his own can be like that player that can elevate a program, then, oh boy, do you find yourself with a significant advantage moving forward. And I think Michigan's going to tap into that. Michigan is going to tap in to the potential, and I think it's going to be good. Michigan fans, I'm curious, what about J.J. McCarthy? Tell me, what is it about his game do you like? The pizzazz, the flash, the ability to extend plays, the big arm? I'm curious, what is it that you find to be so enamoring, so glamorous, that you would brush aside Caden McNamara and just say, put J.J. McCarthy as the starter? I'm definitely curious to know. Hit us up on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, because I think it's a real key decision for Michigan, and one in which I do think that Jim Harbaugh in the last couple years has probably learned what type of quarterback he wants and what type that he needs to develop. And now you see two kind of distinct styles. It's going to be interesting to see, does he go back to Cade McNamara? And you got to remember too, guys, that even if JJ wins the job, if he struggles, if he goes out there and just has a really ungodly, horrible performance against Michigan State, you still got Cade McNamara, and I still think that either one, the one that's backing up, still will be ready, because at a moment's notice, it's football. You can be in there just that quickly. Just within one snap, you can be back out on the football field. So I find it very fascinating to see how this is going to shake out. This has been one of the predominant stories this week, is what's going to happen between Cade and JJ. And in my mind, I think JJ just is a nose hair better than Cade McNamara, but he's got to prove it this Saturday. This Saturday is the audition. It's your job audition, and you're going to have a lot of people there, a lot of close observers that want to see how the young quarterback handles the hoopla and the increased pressure. Thanks again for downloading the latest edition of Check the Report on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Thanks to Matt Friedman for coming on and sharing his insights regarding the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. Again, as a reminder, it takes place this Saturday at the Soundboard at the Motor City Casino. Thanks again for downloading. I'm John Macaroon.